As said, Veronica, thank you very much for allowing us and giving us the opportunity to present our project. The project is an EASME H2020 project aiming at improving building energy efficiency. And in this project, we are 6 countries and 8 partners. As you know, one of the big challenges in terms of energy efficiency is to reduce the gap between what we observe on site, on real site, and what was predicted by calculation. One of BIMplement's answers is to help building company to implement a design project as identical as possible to the design, because there are sometimes quite a lot of difference, errors, and what are they due? What is the reason for it? One of the reasons is right now we use BIM models to manage the complexity of NZ construction, and it's really a useful tool. But on the site, on the construction site, people only have 2D plans, which is not that easy to understand. Also, it's on the work site, it's quite difficult to get access to technical documents, because very often on site there are stores in non-accessible places. It's not so easy also to get explanation from design office, because discussion are not that easy cross-level. Collaboration between batches is also not so easy when people are not on the work site in the same time as you, in particular to talk about airtightness and ventilation. And same thing with report change to create as-built files also. What we propose is to have a use of BIM model on site to answer these issues. How can we do it? One, it's much easier to use BIM project to get a better view of the model. And this can be done only with easy freeware viewers. And on this pictures, you can see the picture of a 2D plan and the same one in 3D. You can see that 3D gives a better idea of what happened. Doesn't mean you don't use 2D plans, but it do bring something. Second step is to use communication tools and exchange tools for better collaboration, both cross-level, I mean within the company, and cross-trade between other batch and the other stakeholders, as project managers, for instance. Once people can use and manipulate the model, they can have access to technical documents that have been linked to the model, as you can see on the picture here. They can fill up quality control sheets. They can have take pictures of what they have been implemented and link it to the model also. And finally, they can participate into the as-built model and links document of the real product that is being laid, or add the brand of the wall painting they've been using, and report any change from the model, always with the use of freeware viewers. In the 6th country, the project aimed at designing and implementing training sessions to develop the use of BIM model on the construction site. But first, we've had to convince the whole stakeholders chain of the construction sector of the interest of it, explaining what just showed just the 2 slides before. And then we developed specific pedagogical tools, such as establishing a list of skills to develop for building companies working in the field of BIM, airtightness, ventilation. And then we developed also specific training tools for this target. Once that has been done, we tested and applied these tools on real site training, real training on real site, on real projects. More than 40 of these projects have been implementing, and we also have a dissemination of the tools, which is the last part of the project. What I'm going to show you right now is what we found from French project implemented in France in real project. And first with building companies. When talking to building companies, most of them consider that BIM is something like a 3D view of a project. Some company know that there are data somewhere, but they don't know exactly what to do with it and how to get to them. And only a part of them, a very few number of company really are third level, which means they use it for design, but for design only. On the company we've been talking and working with in France, most of the time companies don't care about BIM. I mean, it's not their problem. It's the designer's problem. They don't have spare time to consider this question, and anyway, they don't feel they have any use for it. Maybe the reason is that there's a lack of information on what building companies can do with BIM process. In fact, communication is focused on design and design only. It shows that it's quite complicated. It costs a lot. It needs special skills also. And more of all, BIM is presented as a software and as a model. Rarely they talk about the BIM process, which is something that is much more important than the model itself. And in the end, companies don't feel like investing BIM because they are not associated when they arrive in the execution phase. When there is a BIM model in the project, usually small companies and craftsmen don't use and don't design, and they cannot design anyway BIM model. Only large company can do something with it, and wood company also, because they have been working for a long time in 3D model, and so they understand how they can switch from 3D to BIM model. But in any case, when there is a model which managers in companies have been using for instance, for answering the call for bid, they never present the model to field operator. They always give them only 2D plans. And however, once they've been trained, they do understand and they are convinced of the usefulness of BIM model instead of just using classical 2D plans. That's a good thing. The proposal we've been doing is this training for operator on the BIM models. In fact, it's not operator only that have to be trained, because it appears that most managers and design office in companies don't know really how they can use BIM models for their work, and they use it only for the call for bid. The training contents, we base them on the project where the BIM or even a simple 3D model has been designed, even if the model is not that good. But then trainees can directly apply the explanation we give them on the project that they know, that they recognize. As for the pedagogical approach, as I said, we only use viewers. So trainees can play with this tool and they can directly make the link with their project, because the tools show what they have seen in their 2D plans. What appears also is that all stakeholders, not only companies and not only manager, operator, but also all actors have to have a certain level and an equivalent level in terms of BIM knowledge, but also NZEB and ventilation and airtightness, to be able to implement a real collaboration. So we created a skill level assessment tool, mainly for the trainer, but it can be also a self-assessment tool that indicates for each stakeholder. So as I said, not only building company, but also clients, BIM manager, BIM project manager. What is their level in terms of BIM skills, ranging from 0 to 5? For instance, here, that is the table for the technical team of building company. But of course, they are different for site operator, for clients, and for everybody. And then, once everybody has filled it is level, we can have a general view of the project manager skills and all the stakeholder skills. And the trainer then can check where are those gaps in skills and who has to be trained and what are the content to get everybody to a minimum level. From our experience, we considered that what we call level 2 is the way, once you get to this level, it's possible to get to a basic, simple, but real use of a BIM model on site. To make it with a training, we developed a training for manager and site operators whose objective is to have them be able to use the basic tools of a viewer, just as presenting in the beginning of this presentation. And second, usually it's the first to be trained. We train managers and office designers to understand what it means BIM process and what are the role and responsibility of all of the players in the BIM project. It means how to participate in a project where a BIM process is implemented, which is something very important because, as I said, awareness given to building company focus really a lot on model, but not on the process. This, as I said just before, the process, the training is 1 day for the manager plus 1 day for manager and site operator. And I know it's not that easy for manager and operator to be stuck for a whole day to attend a training session. So we imagined this training program here also to get to level 2, which is in fact 12 times an hour and centered for blue collar worker, for operators. And the training will be given by in-house trainer, which will be trained, specifically trained, and this person can adapt the training to the site work. So the training can be given on site and it just take 1 hour every 1 day, every 2 days, twice a week. I don't know. It all depends on how you can find the place. And this employee per company will be able to train all operator to use on-site BIM, to use the BIM model on the site, on the construction site. And so make it more easily to have all employees and subcontractors to use the BIM model and its tools. We had also feedback from clients and from project managers. What we have seen in the very beginning of the project, we thought that our focus was only building companies, but it appears that all stakeholders have to be involved, not only building companies, if we want building companies to be involved in the BIM process. And the client has a really important role, and it can be really the motor of the whole process, because it can impose means to be implemented during the design phase, but also the execution phase. And that's why BIM specifications have to be carefully drafted. However, what we've seen is usually BIM specifications are not that good. Very often it's generic documents which are used, but they are not adapted to the project. So people, even project managers, don't know how to manage with it. And when they are adapted to the project, which we found sometimes, then it's for design only. There is no reference to property management. I mean, how will I use the BIM model after for the project, for the in use and in function building? And there is never any reference to use of BIM on the site, of course. Also, unfortunately, what we've seen is that very often there is no real BIM specification. And when there's a BIM model, it's just because the project manager decided to use and to make a BIM model because it's easier for him to make the job. When there are BIM specifications, we've seen that there's a real lack of precise request for the BIM model data. Very often there's no object table which is precise and that explain what are the data that has to be referenced and filled up. And the second point is that clients don't specify their need in terms of execution model first, then as-built model, and then the facility management model. They consider it the same, but it's not, because the aim of each model is not the same. The objectives are different. And it has to be written down into the BIM specification so that each stakeholder know at each phase what should be and what should be included into the BIM model, including, of course, building companies. The proposal, first one, is really information and awareness to owners and promoters, and explain saying how necessary is a detailed and precise, at least if it's the detailed, precise BIM specification, and explain them how useful it is to ask for the use of BIM on the construction site. And the second point is ask them and help them to include articles in their BIM specification for on-site training and use of BIM model for building companies. We did it in France with one large public authority, which is the region of Bourgogne-Franche-Comté, and the project is on the way to be developed, but it took a long time because this period of awareness is important, and it's a real change of culture for them. But the result may be real good. As for the project managers, project manager, which may be the architect or your architect with the design teams, when the design project may be one or several projects, but each time what we've seen is that the project is made, the BIM model is made for design and answer the client's needs, but they never think of using it on for building company. We even have example of building company that made a rather good BIM model, but they never show it to their on-site workers. And during the BIM implementation, I mean, during the training, it was a place for the first time for the on-site worker to see the project they are working on, to see its BIM model It was the very first time they saw the view, 3D view of the model, and understand that there was more than a view on it. Problem also is that very often the models are not that good. They're pretty poor in France, at least. And the BIM process is not really explicit. And so the different stakeholders don't really know what they have to do. So well, they know what they think is best, but not really the best result in the end. So the proposal is make BIM model simple but correct, classified, coherent between data, between object, between a model and tender document, and include the companies into the BIM process. What does it mean to include the BIM company? Is one, have client and project manager to be convinced that a better implementation on site needs to use BIM model by the operator. And other element is adapt, as we have seen, include document into the BIM model for companies to use it much easily. Accept to have exchange between designers and companies to establish a list of documents to be linked, and propose the means for the companies to participate in the as-built model also. What is a simple, what do I call simple BIM model? Well, it's a simple and good, but good quality BIM model. It's use it during site meetings instead of having a large, huge 2D plan that makes 2 meters long. You can use this 2D plans, of course, but also the BIM model to show the details, to show the way BIM objects are attached to each other, to show the document that has been attached. Use also the communication tools, cross-level, I mean, from operators to managers, cross-trade between batches and between stakeholders, and introduce digital devices on the construction site. This is an example of how to challenge the BIM model, the building airtightness, because, and you see here, for instance, a video that has been linked to the model. Here are technical documents on the, which show how to implement the different elements of the airtightness. But we have also implemented during the BIMplement another way of training on good practice gesture. It's a container which you see on the pictures here, and there are elements where on-site workers can implement the gesture they have to do to improve their practice. And this training module, this training center here, comes on the site and is linked also with BIM tools, just as shown before. As a conclusion, I really believe that BIM is a great tool, but it can help achieve energy efficiency only if it's used on the construction site also. The whole chain of in the project has to be concerned with this question of using BIM on the construction site. And for building companies, the very first element is to convince managers that BIM tools are useful for them on the white collar level and on the blue collar level also, not only white collars level. As for the project owners, it's important for them to understand that they can impose things like the means for quality for the BIM model, impose the implementation of a BIM process during the execution phase with the building companies. And they also can impose to us skilled workers to implement the project, and so impose the training. And for the project manager, it would be very important for them to include building company into the BIM process, and so develop specific exchange with them and have a fluent link between companies and designers. And and for industrial, well, in France we have not involved much industrial into the project, but it has been done in Spain and in Netherlands. And what we've seen is that it's important for industrial to enrich their BIM model with instruction guide, a maintenance guide, skills needed also. BIM object have got classification, and there are lots of properties that can be filled in. And all these elements can be included also in the BIM object, and it sure would help. Well, I've been a bit, I think I took a bit too much time, I'm sorry. These are the conclusions we've had for our experiment in France. I don't know how you feel about what I've explained, and I don't know if you think it's interesting and usable for your countries, for any company, even craftsmen, and I would be very happy to have some suggestions from your part. Thank you very much for listening.